and today I'm here to bring you some must-read winter reading recommendations. You guys really enjoyed my fall reading recommendations, so I decided to obviously bring it into this new season we're experiencing. For this video, I decided to mix some old favorites that I feel like I haven't talked about very recently on my channel with some current new favorites to bring together the ultimate must-read winter recommendations video. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. So the first two books I'm going to talk about are two fantastic standalone reads for this winter season. The first one is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is a book I read a few years ago, maybe even 3 years ago now, and it's an incredible story. Honestly, this is kind of set pre and post a kind of apocalyptic style event or a world destroying event. And in one of those perspectives, we follow a traveling Shakespearean theater troupe after the end of the world. And we also follow a variety of characters before the world kind of ended. And through them, we kind of learn how and why things happen. This is an amazing story of human perseverance, but also it just has so many charming elements. And the multi-perspective element of this story as well is incredibly effective, as it really gives you a holistic view from a lot of different people on how we got to this place. It also is full of like charm and wit as well. It is a dreary setting, but it again just shows how the human spirit can kind of move on even in the worst of times. This book is not very long. It has a wonderful writing style, and it's like a perfect book to snuggle up with in front of the fire and just read in one day. Another amazing adult standalone I have to recommend is definitely one with a bit more action, and that is The Sudden Appearance of Hope by Claire North. This is a story following our main character Hope, who for basically her whole life has not existed in a way. She disappears. Essentially, Hope can talk to someone, and as long as she's in eyesight with them, they can see her, they can remember her, they can carry on a conversation with her, but as soon as Hope disappears, they completely forget that she even existed. And this power or problem is attached to everyone Hope meets and talks to, her family, everyone. So she's essentially invisible. Hope then turns to the only avenue of work that she can actually do and survive, and that is criminal activity. Hope can't really work a normal like waitressing job or office job, as everyone would forget she even existed. While she lives a life of crime though, she gets wrapped up in a world-saving plot, and we follow Hope as she kind of uncovers a whole bunch of secrets and puts herself on the limb for people that doesn't even remember who she is. It's a really amazing story. Claire North is incredibly effective about writing very complex and interesting characters that are normal in every way possible, but somehow kind of gain this burden and also gift of a very strange superpower within our own society. We then get to see these characters work through their powers and decide to use them for both good and evil. They're very, very, very interesting characters and stories, and this particular plot will keep you on the edge of your seat, as it is a thriller as well. Claire North is just a great writer. If you have read this book, I would also recommend reading The First 15 Lives of Harry August, which is one of my favorite books of all time, also written by Claire North. Next two books I'm going to recommend are some historical fiction reads that are dark but beautiful. The first one is Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. This is a amazingly powerful story. This follows our main character Lena, her whole family, but also the hundreds of thousands of people arrested in Lithuania and moved to Soviet prison camps. This is a story of, again, human perseverance to the utmost amount, and it's absolutely mind-boggling because this is based on a true story. This particular story was one I had never really read a lot about in history books, but it is incredible in so many ways and just absolutely mind-boggling and beautiful and harrowing. I feel like this novel is just an important one to read. It's also incredibly beautifully written. Ruta Sepetys does a fantastic job writing about these characters, creating the scenes that they live in. It's honestly a beautiful tale of heartbreak, of hope, and it's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. The next book I recommend picking up is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is a very, very famous historical fiction novel that takes place in Spain after the Spanish Civil War. It follows our main character Daniel. At the beginning of the story, he's a child, and his father brings him to this place called the City of Forgotten Books. There he chooses a novel, The Shadow of the Wind, and he becomes obsessed with the author and the tale, and he does a whole bunch of research about the author and all of the rest of his works. There he realizes someone is systematically destroying all of this author's works and also just like erasing him from history. From there, Daniel realizes that his life is starting to eerily reflect the narrative of The Shadow of the Wind and the book that he fell in love with as a child. This book is so good. Stop, the writing style and the lyricalism of this story is one for the ages. It's so well written, but two, it has this slow burning thriller element that is kind of terrifying in some ways. Like, this book kind of spooked me out, but also made me just keep reading because I needed to know what was gonna happen next. The city of Barcelona, where the story takes place, is such a beautiful city. Oh my goodness, just the atmosphere of this novel is just so powerful that you feel like you're along for the ride with all of these characters. And most of all, and I feel like most importantly for a mystery-based novel, the mystery of this book will keep you turning the pages as quickly as possible and is not one that is easily guessed. This is a fantastic story with such rich atmosphere. It's a great book to pick up on a winter's day. The next book I have to recommend is a novel that has the charm and whimsy that I love to read during the wintertime, but also is a little bit more lighthearted, and that is The Beast of Extraordinary Circumstances by Ruth Emmy Lang. This is a recent read for me, but it was so fantastic. This follows our main character, Waylon Gray, who is an orphan raised by wolves. We follow his story both through his own perspective, but through a variety of other people's perspectives that Waylon meets and impacts throughout his life. Waylon is an odd man with odd powers, and his oddities definitely impacts the people around him, but often very much in positive ways. The story is full of wit, charm, and everything that is just like really lovely. It feels incredibly nostalgic. You really root for all the characters and Waylon himself. It is just a really charming story that gives me a lot of like Big Fish vibes. It's so good. Next book I have to recommend is an old dear favorite of mine that I still feel like not enough people have read, and that is Finnegan of the Rock by Melina Marchetta. This is the first book to an incredible YA fantasy trilogy that I honestly cannot laud enough. It is just so amazing and beautiful and everything you want in a fantasy series. Each book in this trilogy follows a different main character. The first novel follows our main character Finnegan, who is the prince and like heir to a kingdom that has unfortunately been destroyed. All of his subjects are currently refugees scattered across a variety of other kingdoms. He, throughout this novel, goes on a journey to bring all of his people together and bring them home. This story is, again, just incredibly powerful, but honestly, this first novel is a setup for the next two books, which are my favorites in the story, but don't get me wrong, Finnegan of the Rock is a beautiful tale of everything you want in fantasy. There's heartbreak, there's adventure, there's magic, there's warring countries. It's just so incredible. Please read it if you haven't. If you've thought about it, just read it, okay? Just do it. It's really worth your time. And the last book I'm going to talk about is actually an entire series, and that is the Thief series by Megan Wallen Turner. Now, this is a series I have been reading over the past few months, and I really just want to give it more hype because this series, this 4-book series, which just recently had book 5 come out, is such an incredible fantasy tale that just people need to flip and read it, okay? It is so amazing. It has everything you want. Politics, again, adventure, everything, and the characters are so extraordinary and they outsmart you literally every other page. I fell in love with this story with the first novel, The Thief, which I read over the summer, and I have just been barreling my way through the rest of the series, falling in love with each book more than the last. This is a fantasy story set in a world very much inspired by ancient Greece, and it has war, conflict, and so much complexities that it's even hard to describe. Give you some context, the first novel follows our main character, who is a thief, claims to be the best thief in the world, who can steal everything. At the beginning of the story, he is granted clemency to basically steal an impossible gift to help the kingdom that he was imprisoned in. That is the start of this story, very much not the end. It spirals to so many complex political avenues from there, but all I can tell you is that you will fall in love with these characters, fall in love with this land, and absolutely love this series because I know I did, and it's so flipping good. Alrighty guys, those are my must-read winter recommendations. Let me know down below some books you feel like are perfect for the winter season, as I would love to know. And I will see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!